Please help find her. The heartbreaking appeal from the mother of April Jones, who appeared before the media for the first time this afternoon, 2 days after her 5-year-old went missing. Police continued questioning 46-year-old Mark Bridger, and this programme has been told by people searching a riverbank yesterday.
In October 2012, 5-year-old April Jones vanished in Machynlleth, Wales, leaving her community in shock and despair. Despite the tireless efforts of volunteers and authorities, every lead seemed to end in frustration, making the case even more perplexing. Then, a chilling discovery brought the harrowing truth to light, a truth far more horrifying than anyone could have imagined. How could someone harm a child, especially one living with cerebral palsy? And how did the investigation ultimately uncover the grim reality? On the evening of October 1st, 2012, April Jones attended her usual swimming lesson at the local leisure centre in Machynlleth, Wales. While she enjoyed her activity, her parents, Coral and Paul, were at her school for a parents' evening. After her lesson, April invited a school friend, aged 7, to her house to watch the animated movie Tangled. When the film ended, April pleaded with her parents to let her play outside with her friend, despite it being late. Coral and Paul hesitated but eventually agreed, with Coral reminding April not to stay out for too long. At around 7 p.m, April was seen riding her small pink bicycle around the Bryn Y Gog housing estate where her family lived. By 7:15 p.m, she was playing with friends in the same area. However, about 20 minutes later, Coral began to feel uneasy. She decided to check on her daughter, only to find April was nowhere to be seen. Worried and growing increasingly distressed, Coral called the police at exactly 7:29 p.m. to report her child missing.
The name of the child that's gone missing?
April Jones.
April, how old is she?
5.
The first officer from Dyfed Powys Police arrived promptly and spoke with a young witness. The child reported seeing April climbing into a grey van. This crucial detail transformed the case from a missing person report into a critical incident. The information prompted an immediate and massive search effort across Machynlleth.
The date is the 2nd of October 2012 and we're in Aberystwyth Police Station.
As word of April's disappearance spread, the local community rallied together. Hundreds of civilians, many informed via social media, joined the search alongside the police. Volunteers and professionals worked tirelessly through the night, scouring every corner of the area. The disappearance of the cheerful young girl with cerebral palsy devastated not only her family, but the entire nation, sparking one of the largest search operations in UK history.
April! April!
Mark Bridger soon emerged as the prime suspect in April's disappearance. Bridger, a former slaughterhouse worker, was well known in the small Welsh town.
He probably was someone who had fantasized about abducting and murdering a child.
Police began to connect him to the case through various leads, each more incriminating than the last. A critical turning point in the investigation came from the young witness who had seen April getting into a grey or light-coloured Land Rover type vehicle.
We needed Mark Bridger to talk, and that is down to me and Lou.
All of the evidence suggests that you have abducted April.
It happened exactly the way I'm telling you. I did not abduct April.
Acting on this information, police began tracking down individuals who owned such vehicles. Bridger, who owned a grey Land Rover Discovery, was seen driving near the Bryn Y Gog estate where April was last spotted. This made him a person of significant interest. Investigators quickly honed in on him and uncovered disturbing details. On October 2nd, the day after April's disappearance, police arrested Bridger near a riverbank.
Mark Bridger was arrested the day after April went missing. Since then, the forensic examination of his house has grown ever more intense.
He appeared anxious and disoriented. His vehicle was impounded, and forensic tests later revealed traces of April's blood inside. A subsequent search of Bridger's home uncovered even more alarming evidence. Investigators found indications that he had attempted to destroy evidence, including fragments of a small bone in his fireplace. Under questioning, Bridger denied any involvement in April's disappearance, offering conflicting and implausible explanations. Initially, he claimed he had accidentally run over April with his vehicle and, in a panic, could not remember what he had done with her body. Later, he said he was too intoxicated to recall the events of that night. His inconsistent stories only heightened investigators' suspicions. Further examination of Bridger's computer revealed deeply troubling material. Investigators found photos of children, many saved from social media, along with files suggesting an interest in violent and inappropriate topics. These findings provided a glimpse into his disturbing mindset and became critical evidence in the case, reinforcing his connection to April's disappearance. Despite his denials, Bridger's erratic behavior and refusal to cooperate painted a clear picture of guilt. Investigators described him as manipulative, someone trying to cast himself as a victim rather than taking responsibility for his actions. The mounting evidence from his vehicle, home and computer left little doubt about his involvement.
If a small child had been hit by one of these vehicles, it would have caused a lot of injuries. Blood, skin, DNA, even transfer of fibres from April's clothing. And there was absolutely nothing. Basically, his story wasn't true. He'd made it up.
On October 3rd, 2 days after April's disappearance, her mother, Coral, made an emotional public plea for information. Her voice quivered with desperation as she begged anyone with knowledge of her daughter's whereabouts to come forward.
36 hours since April was taken from us. There must be someone out there who knows where she is and can help the police find her. We are desperate for any news. April is only 5 years old.
The heartfelt appeal touched hearts across the nation, drawing widespread attention to the case. The following day, then, Prime Minister David Cameron joined the calls for help. In a compassionate statement, he expressed solidarity with April's family, sharing his understanding of the challenges faced by children with disabilities.
But I think we've made lots of really big steps down the road that will help parents, that will help children, and that will reduce the amount of child abuse that takes place and is posted online.
He urged the public to assist the police and emphasize the importance of even the smallest piece of information. Meanwhile, the search efforts escalated into one of the most extensive operations in UK history. Police, rescue teams and volunteers combed through rivers, woodlands and other difficult terrains. Helicopters equipped with thermal imaging technology scanned the area from above, while specialized divers searched waterways for any trace of April. The community response was extraordinary. Hundreds of volunteers, many of whom had never met the Jones family, braved harsh weather conditions to assist in the search. The once quiet town of Machynlleth transformed into a hub of activity, with people sharing updates, organizing resources and working tirelessly alongside law enforcement to find April. On October 5, 2012, the investigation into April Jones's disappearance reached a pivotal moment. The police officially announced that the case was now being treated as a murder inquiry, even though April's body had not been found. This marked the first public acknowledgement that the authorities believed April was no longer alive. Until this point, the case had been handled as a missing persons investigation, with volunteers and the community tirelessly searching in the hope of finding her safe. The announcement, however, came in a way that sparked controversy. During a live broadcast, a news presenter broke the news and informed a group of volunteers who had been dedicating themselves to the search that the case had shifted to a murder investigation. The volunteers were stunned. They had not been prepared for this heartbreaking update and felt blindsided by the sudden shift in tone. It was a moment that highlighted the emotional toll the case had taken on everyone involved. The next day, October 6, 2012, the focus of the investigation intensified further. Mark Bridger, who had already emerged as the primary suspect, was formally charged with April's abduction and murder. Additionally, he faced charges of attempting to pervert the course of justice and unlawfully concealing and disposing of a body. These charges solidified suspicions that he had played a direct role in the tragic events surrounding April's disappearance. On October 8, 2012, Bridger made his first appearance in court at Aberystwyth Magistrates' Court, where the charges were officially read. He was remanded into custody and transferred to HMP Manchester while awaiting further legal proceedings.
He presented himself to the next available court, which was on the following Monday.
Just 2 days later, on October 10th, Bridger appeared via video link at Caernarfon Crown Court as the legal process began to unfold. Mark Leonard Bridger's background soon came under scrutiny. Born on November 6, 1965, at the War Memorial Hospital in Carshalton, Surrey, he was the second of 3 children. His parents, Graham and Pamela, raised him in a semi-detached house in Wallington. Graham worked as a police officer, providing the family with a modest but stable upbringing. Mark grew up with an older sister and a younger brother. He attended John Ruskin High School in Croydon, where he earned 7 certificates of secondary education, CSEs. His academic performance was decent but unremarkable, reflecting an average student with no standout achievements. From a young age, Bridger's life was marred by brushes with the law. His first significant encounter with the justice system occurred in the mid-1980s when he was still in his teens. At just 19 years old, Bridger was convicted of firearms offences and theft. This early criminal activity marked the beginning of a troubling pattern. Over the years, his behaviour escalated and his list of convictions grew longer. In 1991, he relocated to Wales, where he continued to find himself in trouble. He faced charges for criminal damage, affray, and driving without insurance. In 1992, he was again convicted for driving while disqualified and without insurance. By the 2000s, Bridger's criminal record continued to expand. In 2004, he was convicted of battery and threatening behaviour. In 2007, he faced yet another conviction, this time for assault. While these offences were serious, they were minor compared to the horrific crime he would later commit. Bridger's work life was as unstable as his personal life. Over the years, he took on various jobs, including roles as a slaughterhouse worker, hotel porter, fireman, lifeguard, mechanic, and welder. However, he struggled to maintain steady employment, often drifting from one job to another. His erratic career path mirrored his unsettled personal relationships. In his personal life, Bridger fathered 6 children with 4 different women. In 1990, he married the mother of 2 of his children, but the marriage ended in divorce a few years later. His relationships were frequently unstable and tumultuous, reflecting the same volatility that characterized his professional and criminal behavior. Mark Bridger's trial began on April 29, 2013, presided over by Mr. Justice Griffith Williams.
April Jones' parents, Coral and Paul, sat feet away from the man accused of murdering their 5-year-old daughter as he denied the charge.
The prosecution presented damning evidence, including human bone fragments found in Bridger's fireplace, which were consistent with a child's remains. Blood matching April Jones's DNA was also discovered in multiple locations inside his cottage. This evidence formed the cornerstone of the prosecution's case, leaving little doubt about his involvement in April's murder. During the trial, Bridger claimed he had accidentally run over April with his car and, in a drunken panic, could not remember what he had done with her body. However, the jury rejected his defense. His explanations were inconsistent and failed to account for the overwhelming evidence against him.
The focus for the House was to look for anything that could indicate April had been present. I asked for things like drinking vessels to be looked at.
After the judge's summing up on May 29, 2013, the jury deliberated and, on May 30th, found Bridger guilty of abduction, murder, and attempting to pervert the course of justice. Later that same day, he was sentenced to life imprisonment with a whole life order, meaning he would never be eligible for parole.
He told them, "I tried to take her pulse and held her hand. I put my hand on her chest. There was a sigh. It wasn't a gasp, and for that split second I thought I'd got her."
The judge described Bridger as a pathological and glib liar and condemned him as a paedophile. Despite the extraordinary efforts of search teams and volunteers, no significant breakthroughs occurred in the weeks following April's disappearance. The uncertainty took a heavy toll on everyone involved. By December, police announced they would continue searching into 2013, signaling their commitment to finding answers. As winter set in, the harsh weather made the search even more challenging, and the hope of uncovering new clues began to fade. On March 27, 2013, nearly 6 months after April's disappearance, police made the heartbreaking decision to scale down the active search operation.
The volunteers have been called back from searching. It was just to be left to the professionals.
It is no longer appropriate for us to expect untrained members of the public to continue the search.
They acknowledged that despite exhaustive efforts, no trace of April had been found. This shift marked a turning point in the case as the focus moved from active searching to waiting for any new leads or discoveries. On April 22nd, the search was officially called off. However, police assured the public that a dedicated team of specialists would remain available to respond to any fresh information. The end of the search left a profound void, but also highlighted the resilience and compassion of a community that had come together in the face of tragedy. After Bridger's conviction, it was revealed that he had confessed to a prison chaplain, claiming he had disposed of April's body in the Afon Dulas River. Police remained skeptical of this claim and suspected that he had scattered her remains in the vicinity of his home. In July 2013, Bridger was attacked by a fellow inmate at Wakefield Prison, sustaining injuries to his face and throat. Later that year, in December 2013, Bridger withdrew his appeal against his whole life sentence just days before the hearing, bringing an end to one of the darkest chapters in British criminal history.